Welcome back. I'm so excited to actually talk about this topic. There are many topics like this, but this is one of my favorite out-of-body experiences. There's so many, but this is connected to a couple of things that are happening in the news. So the two things that we're going to cover that's going to lead me into telling the story about my out-of-body experience is about the first thing, that little Tic Tac thing that's been running around when Congress is like interviewing people like, what's going on? Well, honey, that's old news. And the second thing that we're going to talk about is a video that I really highly suggest that you watch, because of the information that is being displayed in here is also connected to my out-of-body experience. Your number one is, I know you're checking out all these TikTok videos and everybody's all excited like, oh my God, we've had aliens and now we have aliens in the ground and we have aliens in the water. Well, all of it is really controlled. The USOs or the ones underwater, the UFOs have a bad connotation to the UFOs because there's all these abductions. Now, I want to only break down one part of it. So when you look at these people, I watch them all in Congress, it's all an act, it's all a play. 80-20, they're going to give you information because they want to always control that information. And you need to know how to decipher the information, because everything they do, meaning the controlled opposition, has symbols behind them. So this is about Jeremy Corbell. He is a investigator reporter for the UFOs or the UAPs, and watch the interview that I have. I'm only going to show you a picture of it because I need you to start to understand everything you watch now is always manipulated in some way, and there's symbolism in every picture or every item that they have behind them. There are 3 items in this picture of Jeremy's interviewing room: the typewriter, the clock, and the safe. The typewriter is a symbol of old to new. It's a 1960 typewriter. I mean, I don't know exactly the date, but it brings me back to Project Blue Book and how they were investigative reporters. That guy, Dr. Heinrich, he worked for the government. Don't forget that. He was part of the movie scene, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And now we look at the clock. Where have you seen that before? That's a monstrance. Looking at that piece, and I'm going to show you what those two look like right now, that monstrance is talking about time and eternity, and it's part of those rituals that were done in the church. And the third thing is the safe. The safe is a black box. If you know what the black box or the cube of Saturn, the black box of Saturn, they're not good places to be. That we've already put them in cities, the black box. I've done videos on that. And now look at the writing of that on the safe also. I mean, it looks beautiful. It looks like they're infinity signs, but it's almost the same writing as the Walt Disney. Yeah, there's numbers in there. If you can remember what those numbers are, look at them. There's a lot of 6s in there. And that's why it leads me into the second thing that I want to talk about. I usually get my downloads of like, what videos do I need to talk about? I'd love you to watch this video and leave it in the description. The channel is called The Fifth Kind by Paul Wallis. He is a theologist, so he researches everything from the Bible and history. Paul Wallis's research on Robert Kirk. And now Robert Kirk was born in 1644, so you need to remember that, so this is far back. And his father was Reverend James Kirk. Yeah, I know, very related to what I'm going to talk about, James T. Kirk.
Captain! Scotty, beam us up fast.
Yeah, nothing's a coincidence. To Robert Kirk, who's a theologist, he was translating the Bible. But the more and more he researched, he saw that there were close encounter events, there were abduction events. He started talking about remote viewing. He started talking about precognitive events. And then he writes the book, The Secret Commonwealth of Elves, Fauns, and Fairies. And that also came out in 1815 because, you know what, God forbid that he got his information out there quicker in the 1600s. They murdered him, so he gets murdered. So watch that video, they'll give you a little bit more. But the bottom line is to that, why I want you to watch this, because he also discussed the fact that Star Wars characters are in there. The Sith, if you haven't seen The Phantom Menace, I suggest you rent that because you'll see all the rituals and the sacrifices and all these backline, stories to it. So, okay, so now this goes to where I'm going to talk about my out-of-body experience. All right, let me just set the scenario up. So a lot of times when I have my out-of-body experiences, I will not realize I'm in an experience until one event shifts. So this one was one of those event shifts. I did a 9 ways of getting out of the body, how I get out, where I'm like, oh my God, I'm in an out of body, or for a fact you're just being pulled, or you do your theory of, am I dreaming awake, am I dreaming awake, hand disappear. Obviously, I'm in this reality. I was in a Star Trek area, and I see this woman next to me. She's blonde and beautiful. These people were just gorgeous. Like, oh my God, I couldn't even believe it. I am on some cockpit in some major ship. She says, oh, they're coming. So I look up and I see in the hallway these two gorgeous gentlemen start walking towards me. I couldn't get my eyes off of them. The blonde, gorgeous, blue eyes, like stunning. And then the guy next to him, just as good looking, but dark hair and green eyes. The sister now says, oh, you have to take her to mom before you guys get married. He says to her, relax, we're going to see her. And so as soon as he says that, both of them look at each other, and the other man says, you're not marrying her, I'm marrying her. And now I'm sitting there like, ooh, these two hot guys want to marry me. Wow, I think that's pretty cool. They're going back and forth, and the blonde man says to the brunette, you can't marry her. You're not high up in the Masonhood. Now let me explain this. I know about that Masonhood because I have a friend who is a third generational Mason, and I've had so many very scary out-of-body experiences with this person, all through the Masonhood, which I'm not even ready to talk about. Anyway, they go back and forth, and he realizes he's beaten out by money and rituals, so this was very interesting. I go to look at his sadness, the dark-haired one, because I'm like, oh, he's sad. And now we lock eyes on each other. And I'm like, wow, those eyes are green. But guess what? He tries to Loki me. He tries to control my emotions. And now I'm like, oh, no. I actually, in my head, say, you're not going to do that. And his eyes start to shift, and he shapeshifts into this green alien eyes. And I was like, whoa, that guy's a hybrid. And that's why I was like, yeah, I'm definitely marrying the blonde. I'm definitely marrying the blonde. I scanned the area, and I realized that there's these crystals on this ship, and it's like it's running the ship. A very big one and very tiny ones around. And the last thing I remember is that I said, oof, these guys are loaded to the point of obsession. And I didn't like that. And so I was like, all right, I'm out. And that's what gets me back into this state. So we are in a very, very good situation. That's a number one. But you also really need to keep doing your research and know what the narrative is for that dark state. They're still going to try to control it. You just need to help yourself. And then I have this one request. Question your friends or family. Have you ever had a moment where you're like, this isn't from this world? So put in the comments any of the stories if you had any phenomenon occur with you in your dream state or in your real waking world. All right, press like and subscribe, and I will see you next week. And don't forget to watch that video right there. Don't forget.